Have no fear, fellow citizens. The Mediator is here.
Good morning and welcome to this week's edition of The Mediator with me, your host, Brian West. Here to give you the top 8 headlines and developing news stories that made it this week. Now, as usual, I give you the top 8 local headlines and developing news stories that made it first, followed by a movie clip, a skit, a trailer, or something that's going on in the community, or maybe some pictures. And then I'll give you the top 8 international headlines developing news stories that made it, folks. So let's waste no time. Oh, yeah. Let's get to it. Story number 1. Another gun story in Youngstown. Ed Runyon has a report published August 5th after 3 people were shot in Youngstown. One person was shot in the calf and the other in the leg and the third in the back, according to the report. Now, the report states that no one was seriously hurt but made it in because local communities continue to be plagued by gun violence. Now, the city of Warren has also been in headlines due to gun violence when one person was killed, according to a staff report in the Mediator published August 4th. Thus getting the story to the top 8. That's why story number 1 made it this week. Story number 2. More grants for Valley Arts. Andy Gray has a report published August 2nd explaining how more than 20 organizations in the local region will receive funding from the Ohio Arts Council. Now, the report goes on to say that Mahoning, Trumbull, and Columbiana counties will receive $324,502 combined from the state in its fiscal year 2025 budget. Now, 965 grants totaling $23.3 million will be handed out, which is the largest in the Ohio Arts Council history, according to the report. Now, the article mentions some well-known arts organizations like the Youngstown City Schools and the Butler Arts Institute of American Art, and even Smarts, and even the Playhouse, and a number of other nonprofit organizations were mentioned in the report. Now, the report even lists the number of amounts to be granted to each organization. That's story number 2 made in this week. Story number 3, the tax answer. David Scolding has a report published August 7th explaining how there are 21 tax issues on the November 4th ballot. The report has some staggering numbers when it comes to budget goals and really succeeds at informing the local community about what is taking place when it comes to tax decisions. Now, this report made it in because taxpayers are taking notice and the ripple effect has started with property tax rebellion. Folks, this story is still developing. That's why story number 3 made it this week. Story number 4, local car and driver safety is back in the headlines. Ed Runyon has a report published August 5th out of Youngstown putting the spotlight on car and driver safety. The report states that a 4-year-old girl suffered a gash on her head and her foot after she was sideswiped by a car while crossing the street. Now, the report goes on to explain how it happened, explain everything out, but there's a but. But what got the story in is because it puts driver safety back on the radar. Now, the child suffered a concussion and received 27 stitches. The report also explains how the person who hit the child did not comply nor account for the accident. So that's why the story is still trending. Story number 4, car safety and driver safety, big help. Story number 5, Foxconn is back in the headlines. Pat Littlewitz has a report published August 5th informing the public that although Foxconn has sold its Lordstown automotive facility in a $375 million deal, so that's $375 million deal, the company will remain at the plant for the long term. Now, the entire article brings the reader into what appears to be a growth strategy by the company to attain more cash by selling the property. Now, the report goes on to explain how the company's focus seems to now be on data centers. Now, the report ends by stating that although the company will remain in the automotive business, the EV venture seems to have failed, at least for now. That's at Electric Voltage Valley. When it comes to cars, folks, let's get this story to the top 8. That's why it's number 5 made it this week. Story number 6, Warren could end the year in the positive. Raymond L. Smith has a report published August 7th informing the public about Warren's financial future. Now, the report goes on to say that Commissioner Denny Malloy he states that the sales tax revenue is better than expected. Now, the article goes on to say that the county could end the year in the black with no tax issues, no tapping into reserve funds and no borrowing, folks. That's why story number 6 also made it to the top 2 this week. Big headline. Story number 7 in the top 2 local headlines in developing news stories that made this week for you to keep you informed, folks. If you do not get up this early, I do upload the show to our YouTube page on the website on Monday. So if you don't get up this early and you want to check out the top, you just want to know what's going on around you, stay informed, you can check out the top 8 on the website. Story number 7, hospitals are set to reopen in Trumbull County. Could this be a possibility? Pat Littlewitz has a report in what looks like a win in the Trumbull County Hospital fight for now, at least. Now, the report explains what appears to be a split from Steward Health and an insight takeover with potential affiliates. Now, this is what the report says. Now, this is after a meeting with Trumbull County officials and the processing of state approval, which will take some time. Now, the ER, according to the report, will open first, with other hospital departments planned to shape up in the future. Now, the report is very upbeat and very informative on what is taking place in the entire process. Now, the report even has a brief section on a financial plan. This is a small little explanation on how they plan to fund this operation. Now, transparency at the moment seems to be the main concern, folks. This is when it comes to employees and the people who are involved in this story, folks. This story is still developing. That's why story number 7 also made it to the top this week. Big headline. Story number 8 and the top local headline in developing news story that made this week for you to keep you informed, folks. If you do want the show to show some support, folks, it does not take much. It is not chemistry. It is not physics. It is not even calculus or trigonometry. All it takes is just to buy something from the store, go to the website, buy something, hook up something, watch something, read something, or to sponsor a program. Or you stop at the store at 5648 Market Street in the store and buy something. It does not take much. All the programs we do here, that money goes back into the community to help fund programs, to pay people, and make sure that that this business stays afloat. And it's not hard to do, folks. If you do want to show some support, that's the simplest way to do it, folks. Let's get to story number 8. Story number 8: jobs report and data headed into the next local election. According to Google AI, as of May 2025, Mahoning County, Ohio, had 5,551 unemployed people, which is a decrease from 6,120 in April. Now, headed into the next election, outside of other issues, the current administration is seeing increased education data, decreased homicides, increases in houses being built, but a decrease in business morale. Now, thus, getting the story into the top 8. That's in downtown. I don't know how it is all the rest of them, but downtown they're seeing a decrease. That's what got the story into the top 8. Now, Youngstown has also been able to meet budget demands because of the COVID relief assistance some time ago that helped the city maintain budget goals, folks. This story is still developing because even the amphitheater and the Cavelli Center continue to see good shows, and that's why story number 8 made it to the top this week. Go, folks, are top 8 local headlines developing news stories that made this week. I'll be right back to the top 8 international headlines developing news stories. So don't you go anywhere. The Mediator, me, Brian West. I'll be right back. Welcome back. Now it's time to get to the top 8 international headlines and developing news stories that made this week. Folks, this is the month where Method 8 celebrates its business anniversary. And I have been in business for over 19 years. And to share this experience on this program, which is a very, very heavily invested program by myself through time, I'll give you a little bit of what I'm going to do is this month, since this is the month where the business was founded, I'll share some of the stories and some of the people I've crossed paths with. The first person I want to share the story with, in the arts, you meet a lot of unique individuals. And so I'll share a little bit of my stories. And one of the unique individuals, some of these individuals, I'll mention their nicknames because I don't know if they want me to mention their real names, is Mr. Ronson Monroe. And he was a very great guy. And I crossed paths with him and his daughter, and they were big into modeling. And I'll never forget the night when the day I first opened, he had met me. We shook hands, and he trusted me with his daughter. You know, we made music, and we had a good time. I started a community fashion show, and I spent, put up the money so they could, so Ronson could, he was always, I mean, everywhere Ronson goes, he was talking about his models, and this is what he enjoyed doing. I mean, he enjoyed taking pictures, and he would take pictures of models, and Ronson would go through things, and some nights, being a small business owner in a small community that's running poverty, he'd be defeated inside, because this was what he enjoyed doing. And one thing you'll notice about creative people is no matter which level of you're at, whether it be professional, amateur, is that they're always talking and trying to home in on their craft. And Ronson would tell me these magical stories, and being a pastor, he would talk about how God gave him this camera to take pictures, and that's what he enjoyed doing. And he would tell me stories, and the most amazing story, I think probably one of the most comical to me, that I was, one night it was probably late in the building, and I was talking to Ronson about some situations that he was dealing with, and he was known for taking photos of young or teenagers, and this is what he would do. This is how he would introduce them to the profession of modeling, and this was his ministry. And he took this very seriously, very seriously. And he was just a great guy. But one night he got upset, and he had been giving away free services, and he got scarred because one of his models had hurt his feelings. And this is what would happen, and he was coming, almost about to cry, ran out. I care about my models. They're like my daughters, and that's how it is when you're in the arts, when you're in business. Your customers, your models, your accountants, you all become a family. And when somebody gets hurt, you get hurt. You feel defeated and beat up inside. And if you see them on the news and you think about the time you invested with them when you don't have your family around, this is your family, folks. And sometimes you get hurt inside. You start crying and you start praying for a blessing. And that's one of the memories I'll share headed into the business anniversary. Shout out to Ronson McDowell. Monroe McDowell. Very good friend, and I hope I haven't seen him in a long time, but that's one of the faces that I remember on this 19-year journey of running this community-run business. And it's been a hell of a journey. I pray for many more, and hopefully I can continue to serve financially. But that's what I'll do this month, is shout out some of the people I remember. And Ronson and his daughter, I remember them very, very well. His daughter is a gospel singer. Ronson's probably still taking photography. He takes photography for YSU, Pro Football Hall of Fame. Great guy, loves his craft. And shout out to I'll be shouting out to a lot of people who I've crossed paths with locally. So let's waste no time, folks. Shout out to Ronson. And shout out to all of his Ronson Monroe models. Ronson Originals. Let's waste no time, folks. Let's get to it. Story number 1, the census question. NPR has a report stating that Trump is calling for a new census that excludes people in the United States without legal status, folks. This is word for word in the main idea. Now, the report goes on to cite the 14th Amendment at odds with Trump's decision to do this. This is what at odds with his decision to basically not include them in the census, folks. This is what's happening. Now, the report claims that millions of people living in the country illegally will be excluded, folks. This story is still developing. That's why story number 1 made in this week. Story number 2, gloomy economic predictions. Fortune has a report published August 3rd by Jason Ma explaining how top economists warn that the U.S. is on the precipice of recession and it will be hard for the Fed to come to the rescue. Now, the report goes on to say that according to Mark Zandi, not only is the labor market weakening, but consumer spending is flat while construction and manufacturing is shrinking. Folks, this is why he says that the Federal Reserve will have a hard time reviving growth. Folks, the article cites inflation as a factor. The article does have some numbers, but made it in because uncertainty is still running wild. The article mentions no sign of mass layoffs, and the unemployment rate has barely changed. That's what's in the story, folks. This story is still developing. That's why story number 2 made it in the story. Story number 3. The property tax story has hit national news. ABC News has a headline published August 3rd, beginning with the quote, highballed. That's what it says in the report, highballed. Now, the headlines, it goes on to state how disproportionate property taxes are forcing some people out of their homes. Now, the report echoes the new cries of Americans struggling to keep up with high costs and afford to live and keep up with their properties. That's what the report is about. Now, this story has been trending for some time now, but due to continued rising costs, has now hit national news, thus getting this story to the top 8. That's where story number 3 made it this week. Story number 4, the black unemployment issue. USA Today has a report explaining how unemployment among black Americans could be an early sign of economic strains because it's rising. The report states that the unemployment rate for black Americans hit 7.2% in July, which is up from 6.3% a year ago and 6.8% the month before. Now, this is according to the most recent jobs report from the Labor Department. Now, this is even during the crackdown of illegal immigration. Now, black women saw a 5.5% to 6.3% decline. Now, this is all while race among other ethnicities ticked up. Now, if you did not know, the federal government plays a huge factor in building black wealth, and now that the federal government is being cut, this could balloon into a bigger problem, folks. The report does cite diversity, equity, inclusion programs as a factor. Also, folks, this story is still developing. That's why story number 4 made it this week. Well, folks, there are top 4 international headlines developing news stories that made this week. I'll bring back the top 4. So don't you go anywhere. The Mediator, me, Brian West. Top right back. Welcome back. Now it's time to get to the top 4 international headlines developing news stories this week, folks. This month I'm shouting out some of the people who I've crossed paths with doing this line of work, being in business. The business anniversary is this month, so it'll be 19 years of serving the local community, Mahoning Valley, and I'm shouting out some of the people I got to cross paths with. One of the persons I want to shout out, who I remember, I won't try to get their whole name or their actual name, but I'll mention their nickname that they developed at the business, was Sparks. Now, Sparks is probably married now, and she's probably going on and probably had kids and everything. But Sparks, before this show was on TV, it used to be a radio show a long time in Pittsburgh. And it actually aired in this area, northeastern Ohio too. But Sparks was one of the first co-hosts I had on this show. And me and her and we had a guy named Scoop. His last name is first name is Dwayne. He was one of our first guests. Well, Sparks, the story, the most funniest story I remember with her was when I first opened this business. I was working for the post office, United States Post Office, before I got injured. And I was injured before, but I got even worse when I was working for the post office. So Sparks was doing the show with me to assist me, and I had to move on without her because she moved on and got married and had kids and stuff. So just to make it long story short, is one night when you're in the arts, it's probably, especially if you're doing it solo, it's always wise to keep your phone on you in the middle of the night. And because you never know what's going to happen. You don't know, somebody could get hurt, somebody could need help with something, and shows go on in every state in America. So one night I'm in the bed I was supposed to be off at work at the post office, but sometimes I would go in on my day off. So I get this phone call in the middle of the night, and it's hey, what's going on? Hey, Brian, it's Sparks. I think I'm going to need a ride to the airport. Having some difficulties with my transportation. So I said, oh, Sparks. I'll be right on it. Put on my cape, uniform, my Mediator superhero outfit, and I got in my mom's Oldsmobile, and my mom, I ran over, got her Oldsmobile, and I got up, juiced it up with gas, and there we were. Me and Sparks were off to the airport. And it's amazing how things happen, because when Sparks was going to the airport, I had to go back to work. On my way back to work, I got a flat tire. My mom's car, I'll never forget it, out in Columbiana County. Never forget it. And I got Sparks to the airport, but I could not make it to work on my day off. And man, that supervisor was pierced. And I got the chewing out of my life. On my day off, I was volunteering to go in. And that's what I've had to do in this business. I've had to sacrifice my own well-being and my own money. And that's what every business owner has to go through. So the reason why I'm telling you these stories is because this is the business anniversary this month. And there's a lot of businesses out there who have the same stories. And that's what I remember. Sparks, I remember her. And I'll probably tell more stories of the business throughout the rest of this month, because this is the anniversary, over 19 years, folks. So shout out to Sparks. But I got the chewing out of blah, 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 blah. And I just sat there and stiffens you up, you know. And I kept the ball rolling, but I did get chewed out. Let's waste no time, folks. Let's get to it. Story number 5. Not only did I get chewed out, but I also had to explain to my mother that her car had a flat tire. She had to come all the way out to Columbiana County from Mahoning County to get her car. Never forget that story. Story number 5. If Israel moves into Gaza, will they care for Palestinians? I'll back down to earth here. Reuters has a headline stating that nearly 12,000 children under 5 in Gaza have acute malnutrition. This is according to WHO, the World Health Organization. This is sad. Now, NBC News has a headline stating that Netanyahu has confirmed that Israel plans to take over Gaza, but this is not what the article, well, the article quotes, this is what the article quotes. It says, but not what, and then the quotes say they don't plan to keep this going on for long term. So the article goes on, this is what the article quotes. So basically Netanyahu is saying that they're going to go in, but they're not going to be there long term. They're going to obtain Gaza, but they're not going to obtain it long term. Now, the report states that Israel plans to ultimately hand over the responsibilities of governing the enclave to Arab forces. So there's that but not in there. That's but not what the article quotes is. They don't plan to keep it for long term. So I guess they're conquering and then going in, organizing, and I guess they're going to give it back to Arab forces. Now, the article ends with hostage information, but really puts the reader inside of the decision that's taking place in this very unstable region. But it does not say if they're going to care or feed the already starving and children or whatever is going on in that region. There are so many mixed reports when it comes to this story. And on the radio, you may hear one thing, right-wing radio, you may hear one thing. In mainstream news, you might see other things, but something is happening because the pictures show starving people. That's why story number 5 made it this week. Story number 6, a few eye-catching headlines. Reuters says that U.S. companies are spending record amounts to protect executives as threats rise. These are some reports you may want to keep an eye on. CNBC says that the White House is working on an order that could penalize banks for political discrimination. ProPublica has a headline stating that the IRS says that churches can now endorse candidates. That will be interesting to see how that turns out. Now, that could give Texas pastors more power than ever. That's what the report says. Now, each headline shows that legal concerns for institutions and organizations could be headed in a different direction that we've never seen before. So story number 6 also made it to the top 2 this week, at least in America. That's why I made it this week. Big hit. Story number 7 and the top 2 international headlines in developing news stories that I made this week for you. Folks, if you don't get up this early, you can check out the show on the website. I do upload it to our YouTube page on Mondays, the whole entire show. Everything that I say and do is on the website throughout over 19 years of service. So let's get to this top story on the website on the screen. Story number 7, labor report. ABC News has a report claiming that the labor market is slowing down. The report explains how the U.S. labor market slowed down over the summer, according to a recent jobs report. Now, the report goes on to explain Trump's reaction, and it goes on to mention the tariff effect and the fact that a drop-off of 1.7 million foreign-born workers has drastically impacted this report. Folks, the story is still developing. That's why story number 7 also made it to the top this week. Big headline. Story number 8 in the top international headline and developing news story that I made this week for you to keep you informed. Folks, if you do want to show some support, this thriving, well, I'll probably say small budget business has been in existence. Small business for over 19 years. Started off a little shaky, but I'm still at it. You can stop at the store at 5648 Mark Street in Boardman, Ohio, or go to the website and buy something, click on something, watch something, read something, or just on the website. Now, some stuff in the store is used or on consignment, so sometimes quality is always not the best, but some people just buy things for the memories. There's a lot of nostalgia, a lot of old antiques in the store, and a lot of different things, different material, different types of books from different eras. So not everything is going to be top notch, but we do try to sell as much as we can get in. So story number 8, the data on tariffs and cost. The Guardian has a report published August 7th by Lisa O'Carroll. Now, the report begins by explaining how more than 60 countries around the world are scrambling to respond to the latest wave of U.S. tariffs. Now, the report should definitely get the attention of industries abroad because it states that industry representatives in rich and poor countries are warning of job losses because tariffs have upended a decades-old world trading system. Now, the report is a thrill ride of stories and testimonies explaining what is taking place in Trump's tariff game. Now, this story is still developing because the end game of winners could see a number of yellow penalty flags on the field. Now, CNN has a report published by Elizabeth Buchwald explaining how Trump's tariffs are bringing in tens of billions of dollars a month. The report says, but now the option of what to do with the tariff money is also in the report also, along with the data of what ripple effect is having on businesses. Folks, this story is still developing. Story number 8 made it to the top this week because we're talking global money. Well, folks, there are top 8 local and international headlines developing news stories that made it this week. I hope you got something out of today's program. I always get something out doing the research. As usual, I thank all the news outlets, journalists, people on the front lines. You deserve all the credit. I'm just the mediator, the man in the middle, navigating your news stories just to keep people informed. Folks, if you do want to show some support, it does not take much. All you do is visit the website on the screen, buy something, click on something, watch something, read something, or to sponsor a program, or you can stop at the store at 5648 Mark Street in Boardman, Ohio, and see my smiling face. Well, folks, I'm out of here. I'll be back next week looking through over 200 or more stories just to keep you informed. Thank you for tuning to the Mediator this week with me, Brian West. Peace.
Have no fear, fellow citizens. The Mediator is here.